All right, looks like we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special live edition of Guns and Gadgets. I'm just waiting for the lag to catch up here. Let me know if we're coming across on YouTube and Facebook. That is the hopes. Oh, give me 1 second. Looks like we have something screwed up here. Getting double feed. My apologies, folks. Looks like we're having a little bit of a technical glitch. Give me 1 minute. Only in America. All right, I think I got it now. All right, looks like we're working. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining me. So, a lot's going on in California, and texting back and forth with Sam Paredes over in California. He is the executive director of Gun Owners of California. He is going to be here live. At least that's the hope. I know he's very busy, and something might have popped up, so we'll start this along, and hopefully he'll be along before too long. So we got a lot going on in California, and my hope is tonight you're gonna learn some stuff of what's going on, what has recently just happened, what we're expecting will happen with that case. That's the Duncan v. Becerra case for magazines, as well as the Rhode v. Becerra case. Everybody's suing Xavier Becerra. He's a class act. The Rhode v. Becerra case is the ammunition background check case that has violated a lot of people's rights. And before I get too far into it, I want to see if Sam's going to get on here, because I want it to come from him, because he's in the fight. They are the ones. They're one of many groups. The Gun Owners of California. You have the CRPA. I always screwed up. The California Rifle and Pistol Association. The NRA is helping funding the case as well. There's a lot going on, and hopefully we get a lot of the results that we all want. The good thing about both of these main cases, the Duncan case, which is the magazine case, and the Rhode case, which is the ammunition case, is they've both started from the same judge, Judge Roger Benitez in San Diego. And he has proven to be a champion of the Second Amendment and a very smart person, actually, when it comes to planning his decision and being very calculated in what he says and what he does. All right, let me bring in Sam here. There we go. Hey, Sam, how we doing, my friend? Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, Jed. How you doing, brother?
Awesome, man. I was letting everybody know that you're a very, very busy man, so we won't hold anything against you. You're kicking butt out there. So we know each other. Why don't you do me a solid? It's been a while since you've been on the channel.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell the folks, because there's a lot of people here from California checking in, let them know a little bit about Gun Owners of California, what you guys do, how long you've been around, and we'll move on from there.
Super. Well, Jared, Gun Owners of California was founded by Senator H.L. Richardson back in 1975, and that makes us the oldest pro-gun political action committee in America. When they invented political action committees, Senator Richardson started Gun Owners of California because that was the year in 75 when they first tried to ban handguns in California. And soon after that, we were met with the folks that are now running Gun Owners of America, and Gun Owners of America came from Gun Owners of California, and now they're the second largest gun organization in the country, and the only no compromise group out there, much along the same lines as we are. I've been working with gun owners or for gun owners since 1980. So once I graduated junior high school, I went straight to work and started to defend our right to keep and bear arms. That's not quite true, but I like to think I'm that young. We work in the legislature, lobbying to protect our right to keep and bear arms. We work in elections, very much so, to try to elect pro-gunners and defeat anti-gunners. And right now, very importantly, we work in the courts. mainly, Gun Owners of California has kind of been designated as the amicus curiae wrangler. We put together voices that need to be heard by the judges, and oftentimes those voices don't have the financial resources to submit amicus briefs because they are very expensive. So we provide the financial resources sometimes for groups of law enforcement agencies, police officers, sheriff's deputies, so their voices are heard, or a group of a whole bunch of different other state associations related to the Second Amendment, put them all in a group, or conservative, pro-American groups, and we will fund those amicus briefs and hire the right attorneys to give the correct constitutional argument on many of these very important Second Amendment cases. So we've been doing this for 45 years now, and it's a heck of a fight. We've dedicated our lives to this. I'll tell you what, if I wanted to get wealthy or even semi-comfortably wealthy, I picked the wrong career, but I'll tell you what, it is very rewarding. And Jared, I tell you why, and I mentioned this to you when we had the interview at the SHOT Show. We do this because we know what we do not only protects, restores, and defends the Constitution, but we save lives. Because hundreds of thousands of times per year, millions of times per year, law-abiding citizens use firearms to successfully defend themselves. And that's why we will fight every effort to make it more difficult for law-abiding citizens to try to exercise their Second Amendment rights to acquire firearms for whatever purpose they have, whether they want to defend this country, whether they want to defend their home, themselves in their travels, their businesses, for fun, for hunting. You want to exercise your Second Amendment rights, we're going to support that effort, and we've been doing it for 45 years. So that's the short thing. I'm a shooter, I'm a hunter, I like them all. I'm unbiased. I shoot handguns. I'm a CCW instructor, pistol instructor. I shoot shotguns, and I'm looking forward to September 1st when we get to go and fulfill our need to make something bleed and shooting doves. Hunt elk with my best of friends and son-in-law and son and deer, and shoot. If it's alive and we can eat it, we hunt it. And then rifles. I like that stuff. Shooting something really small at a very long distance, and then of course the one pleasure that kind of binds it all together is that crazy old AR. Being able to accessorize my Barbie doll, as I call it, and go out and really have the ability to do everything: hunt, target shoot, defend my home, and just have plain old enjoyment in the firearms that we have. So that's kind of the long-winded blowdown on myself and Gun Owners of California. So
awesome. Well, thank you for your time. I know you are super busy, especially the last few days of what's been going on.
Yeah.
Before we get into the meat of why we have you here, with everything popping off in California, I was wondering if you might be able to drop a little bit of knowledge, because you're in the state. So usually when I get stuff, it's already been through the filters a few. Could you give everybody an update of the Duncan case, Duncan v. Becerra? For those who, because there's a lot of people here that aren't in California, first off, tell them who Xavier Becerra is, and go into the Duncan case, and if there's been any movement today regarding the potential appeal.
Sure. Xavier Becerra is a former congressman who, after Kamala Harris, who was the previous attorney general, who wears the crown of being the single most anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment, anti-constitutional attorney general in the state of California, radical lib, Xavier Becerra is right behind her, and if she stops too quickly, she's going to bump right into her back. He from his actions, he hates the Second Amendment. He will do everything he can to fight it and prevent our lawful ability to own firearms and magazines and ammunition and all of that. So he's the present Attorney General in the state of California. And for those of your listeners and viewers who are not from California, this is an extremely important case that has national implications. Duncan was a lawsuit that was filed by the California Rifle and Pistol Association with funding by the National Rifle Association and with all kinds of technical support from Gun Owners of California, briefs from GOA and SAF. Everybody was involved in this case. We provided material support that was provided to a judge whose name you should remember, Judge Roger Benitez from San Diego. He is the one who found that the initiative Proposition 63 that was passed by the voters and Gunmageddon bills that were passed by the legislatures that created a magazine control were unconstitutional. So unconstitutional that he issued an injunction on the law, saying that the law was so bad that it was injuring the rights of lawful Californians, and the law could not be enforced. So Xavier Becerra, as you can imagine, he had puppies. I mean, he had broods of puppies, and that's the nicest way I can say it without really expressing myself. But he went to Judge Benitez and said, if you don't issue a stay on this ruling that you just gave us, this injunction, I'm going to go straight to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals and ask for an emergency stay. So Judge Benitez, being a very wise judge, said, okay, I will issue a stay on the injunction that I just issued, and it will go into effect in 1 week. And in that week, he prevented the Ninth Circuit from coming in and issuing a stay that went into effect immediately. And he opened the window for what we call in California Freedom Week, where well over 1 million standard capacity and large capacity magazines flowed into the state, but lawful gun owners were buying them left and right. I mean, every manufacturer was focusing all of their attention on selling magazines in California. We snapped up way over 1 million magazines in 1 week. So he issued the stay, which meant that the law went back into effect after his deadline. So now we can't import, we can't manufacture, we can't sell, we can't trade, we can't loan high cap magazines or standard capacity magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. So it went to the Ninth Circuit Court. They gave it to a 3-judge panel. They were Justices Consuelo McCallahan, Kenneth Lee, and Barbara Lynn. Barbara Lynn was a judge from Texas who was added to the panel, and the first 2 judges were actually sitting members of the Ninth, and they examined Judge Benitez his injunction. They did their own extensive historical research on the Second Amendment and magazines, and when the first high cap magazines came into existence prior to the founding of the nation. When Lewis and Clark went on their famous quest, they had a large capacity air gun with them, a firearm that would be considered in these days. And so they disproved this. Well, all they had was muskets back in the days. The Second Amendment only allows muskets and you know, that kind of stuff. So they gave us a super strong opinion, a ruling that declared the law, the ammunition law, the ammunition magazine laws in the state of California as unconstitutional. Now, people said, well, that opened up the doors for freedom forever. And it really did, but it doesn't go into effect yet, because when Judge Benitez issued his stay, he said that the stay will stay into effect until this issue is resolved. The appeal is resolved. And although we received this 3-judge panel, it hasn't been finally resolved, because the Attorney General will probably ask either for an en banc hearing, which is a full court hearing, 11 members, including the Chief Justice of the Ninth, will rehear the case and either affirm the 3-judge panel or overturn it. Or Attorney General Becerra has the opportunity to go straight to the Supreme Court from here. Now, this presents a very interesting situation for him, because if he goes to the Supreme Court, well, we know what the Supreme Court has been doing with Second Amendment cases right now, and if they don't grant it certiorari, they don't grant to hear it, that means that the 3-judge panel ruling goes into effect and the magazine laws disappear in the state of California. If he does request for an en banc hearing, thank you, President Trump, who has been appointing new judges to the Ninth Circuit by the boatload, and we almost have parity now of those judges that are appointed by a Democrat president. They tend to be very liberal, and those appointed by Republican presidents who tend to be Constitution-loving originalists. So it's very parallel. So now it's not a sure thing that when we get an 11-judge panel that he's going to get a rubber stamp panel that's going to agree with him. If we get an 11-judge panel that agrees with us, Becerra has no choice but go to the Supreme Court. So we're waiting to see what happens. If Judge Benitez comes in and says, you know what, guys, I'm lifting my stay, then the doors are open and freedom rings with regards to magazines in the state of California. That's the situation. Very important case. And we're already reading and seeing commentary about from other states that have ammunition magazine limitations. This will directly affect what happens in their states. So pray that we win all the way. We're 99% of the way there. We have 1% of the way to go. And for those people who are wanting to buy magazines in California, you know, if you get them, if you do it at your own risk, the time is just not right. And if you don't think that Attorney General Becerra is going to exercise the law to the full extent that he thinks it applies, you're going to be sadly mistaken when you get a knock on the door for buying high cap mags. So that's Duncan in a the long way around the barn. Those are all the details. If anybody wants more information, you can go to our website at gunownersca.com. We have the case up online. You can read the whole decision and get an update on what's happening on that very, very important case. So
awesome.
That's where we are, Jared.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I couldn't have said it any better myself.
Yeah.
So as somebody who has myself the last couple of years been trying to immerse myself into all that is the Second Amendment from the ground up, I have learned just how astonishing the cost is to sue the way that you, the GOC, the GOA, all the groups that launch a lawsuit. First off, I want my members who watch this and whoever will watch this down the line to, again, I'm going to say it, support those who support you. I joined Gun Owners of California. I live in Massachusetts. I'm humbly asking you to do it as well. It's $35 a year, and it goes a long way to help fund these cases. Now, before I have Sam drop knowledge on you and let you know how much this stuff actually costs, they can't do it without us, guys and gals. So when people say, oh man, I wish somebody would sue, it costs a lot of money, and the lifeblood of any group is the membership. It's us. So our dues help fund these lawsuits. Sam, let somebody know ballpark how much it costs, A, to launch a lawsuit, B, for an amicus brief, and C, the potential cost of going all the way to the Supreme Court.
Well, over the last 5 years here in the state of California, the least expensive lawsuit that I am aware of cost $500,000 to file, just to get it filed and get the initial trial going. That's where the beginning was. Every lawsuit is somewhere between $1 and $3 million to litigate it all the way to the Supreme Court. And we have got, 20 lawsuits that are in play at any given time. So that is a lot of money, and thank God for all of the people who have been supporting us, who have been supporting Gun Owners Foundation with your tax-deductible dollars, Gun Owners of America, and all of the other organizations that are willing to file lawsuits and to carry them all the way. We partner with everybody in these cases by filing amicus briefs. Now, what is an amicus brief? Well, when somebody files a lawsuit, the courts allow them only a certain number of words and pages in order to make their case. Well, often, and that's one of the reasons that I learned that lawyers use all of these super important and big words that mean all kinds of things, because they can pack a big message in just a few words. But still, it's difficult to get the entire argument into these lawsuits. So an amicus curiae is a friend of the court who is allowed to submit a brief, also limited in size and number of words, but to add to the case that is being litigated. So in some cases, we will bring the voice of law enforcement, police officers associations, deputy sheriffs associations, law enforcement groups who will get together. And I love every one of those organizations, but what they're really good at is raising money to have retirement dinners and things like that. They don't really dedicate any resources to filing lawsuits. So that's when we come into play, and we partner with them and get them involved in some of these friend of the court briefs, so that the voice from the law enforcement perspective can be heard by the judges. Sometimes it's state associations. Gun Owners Foundation, man, they are the single most pure defenders of the Constitution and the Second Amendment in particular of anybody out there. As a matter of fact, the language that they have been using as far as the text, history, and tradition of the meaning of the words of the Second Amendment at the founding, not 1 second after the founding, but at the founding, GOF has defended that and has promoted that since the beginning. Now we're finding that so many more of the attorneys that are involved in the fight think that, oh my gosh, they're absolutely correct. It isn't, you can't decide these cases on rational basis or intermediate scrutiny or even the vaunted strict scrutiny. There is another level of scrutiny available to the judges. And as Scalia pointed out, it's the text, history, and tradition of the meaning of the words. No balancing test. The balance is, what did the word say when it was written? What does it mean? What did it mean there? And how does this affect the lawsuit that's being filed right now? That makes it super easy to make these decisions. And thank you, GOF, Bill Olson and the whole team there who we have at GOF filing these lawsuits. And now more and more attorneys are following in suit, and we're making great progress. We're finding that the judges throughout the country, including Justice Kavanaugh and Justice Gorsuch in separate cases before they made it to the Supreme Court, use the same language. It was like they were reading off the GOF a play sheet, text, history, and tradition of the meaning of the words, and that's a beautiful thing. When you have Justice Thomas, who quotes a GOF, a friend of the court brief, in one of his dissents or one of his opinions, or that they are listening to what it is that we are saying. And that's why it is so important. And each of those, the least expensive of the friend of the court briefs is $15,000 per case. Now, right. 20 cases times 15, when that's the big load that we're carrying, that's a lot of money. And your $35, we have cheap rent, we have a small staff, we don't have anything super nice. We have white walls with trophy heads on the wall that we've taken. We do spend money on good flags, but the rest is spent on lawsuits and elections and being able to lobby the legislature. And it is extremely expensive. And if you take Gun Owners of America, Gun Owners Foundation, Gun Owners of California, NRA, California Rifle and Pistol Association, Second Amendment Foundation, and Firearms Policy Coalition, you put them all together, and you're looking at tens of millions of dollars that have been spent in lawsuits on every issue that everybody, they always say, Sam, why don't you file a lawsuit? Well, we have. There's one active. Yeah. Well, yeah. Where is it? Well, unlike the legislature that operates on 2-year terms, they have to finish the issues within 2 years. The courts are not limited in terms, so some of these cases drag on for years and years and years, and we have to stay on top of them. And there's nothing we can do about the timing. So thank God that obviously there are a lot of folks who are contributing. We ask you to contribute more, because we are so close to gaining the victories that we need in order to really restore the Second Amendment and get the Supreme Court to say that, yeah, no more balancing test of any kind on any Second Amendment. Strictly text, history, and tradition of the meaning of the words. That's your standard. Nothing else is allowed. We get that, we win forever.
Absolutely. So I know I speak on your entire state that are on our side. Thank you in everything you guys do. I know you guys are constantly in the fight with lawsuits and amicus briefs. So thank you. And my hope is that this will drive some membership for you. Like I said, I don't live anywhere close to California, but our laws are pretty close to California, because what happens in California kind of leaches to the rest of the country, and it's been a fight lately between California and Massachusetts to see who can be the most evil. So if you're out there and you can, please join. Sam, real quick, just tell them where they can go to join and donate.
You can go to our website at gunownersca.com. It's simple. You just click on join, and it's easy to go. Make a $35 contribution. If you can make more, we promise to put it to good use. If you can't make $35 for whatever reason, if you've already made a whole bunch of commitments to other pro-gun organizations, God bless you. If all you can make is a $5 or $10 donation, we have a bunch of people that send us $10 a month. Out of their monthly budget, they've dedicated $10 a month. It ends up being $120 a year. That is a huge help in order to continue this fight. So, we need the resources to keep the fight going.
Awesome. So before we jump into the Rhode case,
yes.
A lot of comments, and I said the same thing as soon as I saw you. Man, your mustache is on point. It's on point.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I had a beard at the beginning of COVID, and I decided, you know what? I got a couple of kind of personal heroes out there, Wyatt Earp and Pancho Villa, and I said, how better can I enjoy COVID than to let my mustache grow? And I thought,
well, you definitely got it going, man.
Thank you.
All right, let's jump into it. There's another big case in California, guys and gals, that has potential national implications because a couple other states are eyeing what Becerra did. First off, for folks who don't know, this case was brought by Kim Rhode, correct? And
correct.
Kim Rhode, if you're not aware, is a U.S. Olympic champion.
Right.
I didn't even realize how many medals she has. So what I'm going to do is move us to the side and share the screen.
Okay.
This is just her Wikipedia page. I don't know if you can see it on your side, Sam.
I can.
So she has, you can see on the right-hand side there, she is extremely good in skeet and in trap. So this law went into effect, and I'll let you know more about it than I do, but
sure.
Essentially you had to go through a background check to buy ammunition. And Ms. Rhode, being an Olympic champion, much like Jerry Mikuleks of the world, use a lot of ammunition. Mm-hmm. And I know the numbers that the AG is throwing out and touting that they stopped this many people, but a lot of people their rights are being violated because of this. So please tell us about the law and how it's been in the first 7 or 8 months before the lawsuit, and tell us more about the case and what the case looks to accomplish, and then we'll get into the brief.
Sure. Kim Rhode, as you well know, is a 6-time Olympic champion. She is the leader in Olympic athletes in winning in consecutive Olympics. 6 Olympics in a row, she won a medal, and a bunch of them were gold. And so she is started out in international trap and moved over to skeet, and she had ammunition delivered to her home in skids, in pallets of shotgun shells. I mean, the entire pallet. It's a giant cube of ammunition that would be delivered, and she would blow through that thing like nobody's business and then have another pallet delivered. Well, given this law that requires you to go to a licensed, it came also from Prop 63, which handled magazines also, and the Gunmageddon laws of last year. They created an ammunition registration system with background checks. And so when you want to buy ammunition, you have to go to the dealer, a licensed ammunition vendor, and then you have to give them your driver's license or a valid passport or a valid birth certificate, certified birth certificate, and then they do a supposedly instant background check on you. And if you clear, then you are able to buy the ammunition. You pay $1 for each different lot of ammunition that you buy, each certification that you buy, a class of ammo that you buy, and then you can take the ammunition home. It's illegal to transfer ammunition to other people. Anything more than 500 rounds you give away, you reload for your buddies. When you hit 500, you're breaking the law. You need to be an ammunition vendor in order to do that. And you have to go through the background check system. Now, this background check system, what they do, since you cannot use NICS, which is the National FBI monitored background check system. You can only use that for the purchase of firearms and for CCW background checks. That's all that can be used for. So what they did here in California is they used our state databases. Well, those things are pretty jacked up. So, and they're pretty dumb. You put in your address. They swipe your driver's license. And what the database that they're using is if you have ever purchased a firearm in the state of California before and you are on the certified list of registered ammunition, a rifle or a pistol or shotgun buyers in the state, then they're going to count that as your background check. So they swipe your driver's license, and then if it matches the record, then you're good to go. If it doesn't match the record, they bounce you back and say, it's no good. You have to go and fix your record. Why? Because the system is so dumb that it cannot recognize the difference between AVENUE and AVE period or AV period. Cannot tell the difference. So when somebody puts in their driver's license says AVE period, but when they bought a gun, they fill that out as AVENUE, those are not the same records.
Right.
And so you're denied your ability to buy a gun, and you have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops to go to the Department of Justice website to update your record and make corrections and certify that it's correct in order for you to be able to buy ammunition. And even though some people have done that, they have still been denied for who knows why. We can talk about it once we talk about the amicus brief, and I'll tell you why.
Absolutely.
Because we do know why they've been rejected. So, we have lines of people at ammunition vendors wanting to buy ammunition. They have to wait. They have to stand 6 feet behind the next person wearing their mask. And they can't even touch the ammunition when they go into the store. The ammunition has to be touched by the certified ammo vendor with a certificate of eligibility with a background check. They get the box of ammunition that you want to buy. They bring it to the counter. You go through this process, and then they let you touch it. You can't even take it off the shelves and bring it to the counter in order to buy it. So it's all got to be locked up and behind counters and behind closed doors. If you go to Walmart or you go to Sportsman's Warehouse, you'll find that they have these huge plexiglass cases with locks on them, and somebody has to come and open it up, and then they say, what ammo do you want? I want that box of 50 rounds of 22 Remington Lightning ammo. Okay, that's going to be $1.29. Let's go up to the counter. Don't touch me. I'm holding the ammo. Put it down. They got to do the background check. Got to get your dollar. So it's not going to cost you $1.29. It's now going to cost you $2.29. And then if you pass the background check, oh, okay, now you can take your box of ammo home with you. So it's absolute craziness. It's ridiculous. And you know what? Other states, if they're considering this, expect absolute total mayhem. It just cannot be made to work, and that's why we did what we had to do.
Absolutely. And the good thing is it started out, if I'm correct, it went to Roger Benitez, who is like the patron saint of freedom in California.
Yes.
And you tell everybody what he did.
Well, we learned something, Jared. We're not dummies. We actually learn from experience. And we always wondered why the anti-gunners and the those that hate the Constitution, how they get such great rulings on their behalf. Well, we realize that they keep going back to the same judges. Well, there's some federal rules in federal court that say that once a judge has dealt with a particular issue and has gained some expertise, they have the option of accepting cases if they're in the same expertise area of expertise. And so Judge Benitez has become the single most unbelievable expert on firearms and ammunition and magazines. And so when we said, Judge Benitez, would you like to take this case? He said, well, heck, why not? And he took the case, and that's a beautiful thing. So Kim Rhode filed a lawsuit with the California Rifle and Pistol Association, funded by the National Rifle Association. They filed the main lawsuit challenging the laws, the ammunition laws. So the Attorney General, and then Judge Benitez reviewed all of the information. Gun Owners of California, we started going throughout the state of California and asked members and anybody who bought ammunition to send us all of their horror stories about trying to buy ammunition, because we kept hearing that nobody can buy it. Half the people out there can't buy ammunition, even though they have clean records. We collected all of these instances and shared them with Judge Benitez, provided them to the lawyers. They formatted them and they presented them as factual evidence for the judge to review. So he said, after reviewing the records from the Attorney General, and the Attorney General submitted his side of the argument, Judge Benitez said that this law is so unconstitutional. Attorney General Becerra claims that they have prevented 750 prohibited people from buying ammunition in the first 3 months that this was in place in the state of California. Now, mind you, in the first 3 months, there were over 300,000 purchases of ammunition. And out of that 300,000, 100,000 people were not able to buy ammunition, and they were clean. They were law-abiding. They had nothing on their records. And out of that whole mess, 750 people they caught who they said were prohibited. And they said, we're preventing, they made it sound like the gangbangers and organized crime people were being prevented from buying ammunition. Well, very soon after that, almost immediately, they said, after we poked around, we just started researching their data to see if they were telling the truth. Out of the first several that we examined, 16 of them immediately came off that 750 list because it was an error on the part of the Department of Justice. They were not criminals. They were not prohibited from. They just screwed up, and that was enough. Just scratching the surface, out of the first several dozen, 16 of them were not supposed to be on that list. So we knew that there was something wrong. We started to examine the databases of the state of California what DOJ was using, and that's when we filed and formulated our amicus brief to this case. We pointed out that the Attorney General said that it's obvious that criminals are able to circumvent California's existing background check system in order to buy firearms through dealers. So right off the bat, they're admitting, whoops, our system is screwed up and criminals can buy by going through dealers. And then they said, that's why we need this added layer of protection to prevent them from buying ammunition. They can get guns, but if we can prevent them from buying ammunition, then they can't commit their crimes. What kind of logic is that? The admission that their system is jacked up, and then stating that doing the same thing again with ammunition that they're doing with firearms is somehow going to prevent criminals from accessing ammunition is just crazy. We also pointed out in our amicus brief that the Attorney General has pretty much admitted that maybe up to 50% of the databases are inaccurate. That means that it's a flip of a coin whether the information that comes back on one of these databases might be accurate. And let me point out just one instance. Let's say that when you were a kid, 17, 18 years of age, 16 or 17 years of age, you did something dumb and you got a misdemeanor for fighting or assault or marijuana or even adults, got into a fight and they were charged with a crime. The crime went to the courts, and the courts either dismissed the case, found them not guilty, or found them guilty and then gave them a time limit in order to expunge the case.
Right.
And so there's no more information on that. Well, the courts are not required to keep those records for more than a certain amount of time. In some cases, they only keep them for a couple of months, in some cases for a couple of years, and in some cases they keep them forever. But consequently, we have a lot of people who are totally eligible to buy ammunition, but because they were arrested and that pops up somewhere, but there's no result as to what happened in that case, DOJ says, nah, too bad. You have to prove that you have to come up with some sort of paperwork or prove that you were found innocent, or the case was dismissed, or the case was expunged, or you got a gubernatorial pardon. Right. You guys have to prove that, and a lot of that information isn't kept. So the courts, these laws require the courts to take the results of those cases and submit them to the Department of Justice to be put into the databases. But if they expire the time limits, they don't do it. And they don't have the time and the money and the ability to do that. So many of these databases are woefully inaccurate and out of date. So you have, like Judge Benitez said, now it's hundreds of thousands of law-abiding citizens in the state of California who have no record at all, have been denied their ability to buy ammunition in the state. Unless they reload, they have no options. They can't go across the state lines to buy ammunition. You can't mail order. You're stuck. And if you borrow from somebody, you're breaking the law.
All right. Right. Yeah. And then if I'm right, once the injunction was put in by Judge Benitez, that basically opened up the floodgates where people could start sending in ammo again. But then Becerra went to the 9th for an emergency stay, correct?
Yeah, that one was a very quick one.
Right. Yeah, it was a couple hours. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a couple of hours. The window opened, a bunch of people ordered, and then the window closed. And this time Becerra went immediately to the 9th. The 9th issued an emergency stay and said that it cannot go into effect and until they actually review the injunction that was issued by Judge Benitez. Now we're talking about the ammunition. Very similar about the way it happened with magazines, but now it's with ammunition. And now we're waiting for the 9th to actually hold a hearing on this case and allow both sides to make their arguments before a 3-judge panel. Right. And if we're fortunate and blessed, we will have a 3-judge panel much like this one, where we have judges who support the Constitution and will rule in our favor, and we'll do this all over again.
Now, if I remember, I was looking at the timeline of the case, I think last week, because you guys put out the amicus brief on, was it the 7th or the 8th is when you filed?
Yeah, it was, we filed on Friday. It was...
Yeah, it's been a week.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the timeline of the case, and if I'm right, most of their deadlines, the 9th deadlines, are done. So they got all the information they were supposed to get or acquire from both sides. So now it's basically we're waiting for that panel to convene and listen to the case, correct?
That is absolutely correct. Everything that's in is already in. It is now being considered by clerks and being vetted through the process that they use at the 9th. They will assign, if they haven't already done so, and we don't know about it, a 3-judge panel, and then all of the information on this case will be forwarded to them. They will hold a virtual hearing on the issue and then make a ruling and come down with a decision. And that's where we are, man. I wish I could tell everybody that it's going to happen tomorrow. But we can't. That's why we're in it for the long haul. Man, Jared, you and I know the people that we've been fighting, they have been fighting to take over this country for a long time, and they've been patient, and they've been nibbling away little by little by little. And they know that the people that they believe in have said, don't worry, one of these days they will elect you. Right. You'll be elected, and you'll be able to spread the socialism and the communism and the destruction of freedom in America. You'll be able to do that. And we want satisfaction immediately, but we're fighting these people that have been embedded in destroying this country for a long time. And it's going to take us a little bit of time. Hopefully not as long as it took them to get to where they are now. but that's why we have to fight. There's a lot more of us than there are of them. And
Absolutely.
if we work together, we can have an impact in elections and in the courts, because who we elect is important to the courts. And,
Absolutely.
Lord willing, President Trump will have an opportunity to appoint a few more judges to the ninth, and we have parity. And the crazy ninth, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, will become a respectable court with much better rulings that affect not only the ninth but the rest of the country, and that's where we are.
Absolutely, and that's a big thing that a lot of people, whether they like the person or the persona or his Twitter, one of the best things the president has done is his the justices that he's been putting in these federal positions. There's been quite a few of them, and if you look at just the ninth, I mean, I've been poo-pooing on that circuit the whole time this channel's been up.
So have I.
Yeah, it used to be like 95% liberal. Now, like you said, I think it's two. They have a 2-justice majority on the liberal side.
Yeah.
And just to do that in a 3-year period is a feat that nobody really thought could happen. And we actually have hope. When you see, I mean, we have Judge Benitez obviously on our side, and I don't know if you know the guy, but if you do know the guy, maybe we can get him on the channel, because he needs his due credit from the nation. But what can people do watching right now who say, man, I want to help, what can I do? What's the best way for somebody, whether they're in California, Maryland, New York, what can they do to help?
Number one is be informed. We like to say at Gun Owners of California, we want our friends, our members, our listeners, our supporters to be armed and informed. Go to our website, read the case. You will get, both on Duncan and Becerra and Rhode, you will get an education that will give you goosebumps. These judges have gone and done great research that'll help us in talking with our family members and our friends, and even some of the knuckleheads at the range who think that we're never going to make any progress, and they, even some of them, think that we're off base. You're going to be able to point them in the direction and give them facts about the history of the Second Amendment in California and in the nation, and what it means, what it truly means, what our founding fathers meant. That's really important. Number two, we have millions, and I mean millions, of new gun owners nationwide. Every gun store that I've talked to, whether they're in California or outside, have been telling me, Sam, between 40 and 60% of the people that are buying guns from my store right now have never owned a gun before.
Right.
And half of those people are willing to tell me, I used to be a believer in gun control. I used to support all of this stuff. What do you mean I have to go through a 10-day background check and a waiting period? What do you mean I have to give you my thumbprint? I didn't know that you have to go through all of this stuff. And the dealers are doing a very good job of educating them. Well, it's because of the people that you have elected that have put all of these things in place that leave law-abiding citizens like yourself to have to jump through so many hoops to exercise an enumerated constitutional right. If they had their way, you would not be able to buy this gun and take it home to defend yourself in your home against all of the trash that's happening in the streets throughout cities across the country. You wouldn't have that ability. They don't want you to have that ability. So you need to think twice about who you vote for on state, local, and federal levels as the elections come. So we need to embrace any new shooters that we hear about. Family members who are, we all have lefties in our families who have always argued with us on gun control, and now they say, Jared, how do I get a gun? What gun should I get? What caliber should I get? What holster should I use? How should I store it? Who should I go and find training from? And embrace these people and just welcome them. Don't, we're all going to want to say, told you so. Late to the party here, knuckleheads, and you've been calling me a dummy. No, don't do any of that stuff. You can think it all you want, but you know that we're winning, and enjoy that fact. Invite them in. Take them out, sit them down, go over the full rules of firearm safety with them. Make sure that they know them. Make sure their kids know them. Help them by going to their homes and helping them to figure out how to safely store firearms given whatever level of safety they have in their homes. If they need to buy a safe, great. If they have other abilities to securely store firearms, great. But help them to think about, okay, now you have a gun. How are you going to defend your home if somebody comes through the front door or through the front window or the back door or climbs up on the roof or comes down the chimney? No, don't do that. That's usually Santa Claus. But, embrace these people and then educate them. Let them know there are people who want to prevent you from being able to defend yourselves.
Absolutely.
And we can respond to that on the elections. That's the second thing. The third thing, Jared, you and I know that our folks are freedom-loving, law-abiding. They want to enjoy their jobs, because enjoying their jobs allows them to enjoy their families, their barbecues, their churches, their vacations, their hobbies. And after they fill their lives with enjoying all of the freedom that we have, there's very little time left to dedicate to fighting for freedom, to be able to enjoy all of those things. Our opponents, their vocations and their avocations are figuring out how to gain power politically. For vacations, they're not going up to the Sierras or to the Appalachian Mountains or to wherever, Martha's Vineyard, to enjoy a vacation on the beach with the kids or in the mountains. No, they're going to political conferences to learn how to be more politically active, and they're being run by hard left political leaders. And then they find jobs in foundations and unions and other organizations that are dedicated to taking away our rights. And then they run for office. So their entire lives are dedicated to that. But thankfully, there's so many more of our people. If everybody dedicates a little bit of time, and if you don't have time, a little bit of money to this fight, we can win. We can squash this vocal minority that is the hard left that we are fighting. And we can put them to bed for a long time, for generations to come, if we're willing to do that. So be informed, invite new shooters, welcome them, teach them, direct them where they can get whatever kind of help they need. Enjoy your families, but understand that freedom costs. It's not free. And then dedicate either a part of your time to being active with one of our pro-gun organizations. We invite you to Gun Owners of America. We invite you to give tax-deductible donations to Gun Owners Foundation that goes 100% towards lawsuits. We invite you to be involved with Gun Owners of California so that we can fight the laws in California, because what happens in California affects or infects the rest of the country. And it's like having a long-distance can of Raid. If we can kill the cockroaches in California from Massachusetts, well, Massachusetts, we're spending some Raid to Massachusetts too, because you got some real doozies back there. But from freedom states, from Texas and Wyoming and Alabama and Mississippi and Arkansas and Middle America, get involved, be involved. You do that, we will win. And your children and your grandchildren will live under the freedom that you paid for in order for them to be free. And that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do.
Absolutely. And people don't realize how easy it is. What I want to do is, I do this every now and then. If folks are looking to help out, and maybe you can't do the $35 membership or whatever, we've had a couple live. It's called the Super Chat, where people donate while we're live. I'm going to donate 100% of those proceeds of whatever's come in through the show, or whatever continues to come in, to Gun Owners of California, just because I believe in what you guys are doing. And I'll throw a little more on the back end. We'll talk after this. But as a member, as a friend, thank you for everything you're doing, my friend. I want to ask you if you could lay some education down on us on one of your products in the nation, and that is the potential Vice President Kamala Harris. Could you tell everybody how she ran your state? I know some doozies about her, but I think coming from you would mean a little more because you're there. Just give a couple examples of how anti-gun she is, even though she's a gun owner who says she keeps it for protection, but it's good for her, not for us. Some of the things that she's done to your state before she's moved on.
Wow. That just picking a couple is going to be really hard, but it's real hard to do that. Kamala Harris, as I mentioned earlier, is the single most anti-gun, anti-Constitution, Second Amendment hating elected official to come out of the state of California and go on a national level in a very long time. She's gained prominence. I don't know why, but she's being foisted by the hard left. They're trying to paint her as this moderate. There is nothing moderate. When she was the district attorney for San Francisco, if that tells you anything about where she comes from, she not only opposed the death penalty, she opposed the death penalty for convicted cop killers. Convicted cop killers, she opposed the death penalty for those people. You know, here's a couple of things. In implementing the gun laws of the state of California, and they are extensive, Kamala Harris issued a set of guidelines within the Department of Justice that were to be followed by all of the people who were making decisions on gun issues, whether it was CCWs or gun dealer permits or whatever. All of the permits and licenses that they deal with, dealer record of sales. When you buy in a firearm, you do your background check. If there's anything that even smells to them as being out of place, she issued guidelines that allowed them to make decisions that were not legislatively authorized.
Right.
She didn't have the authority to do that. So they were legislating by bureaucracy at a whim. It depended if they got up in the morning and their wife kicked them out of bed because, you know, they ate too many crackers at night and they were in a bad mood and they came to work. They were able to use those guidelines to make decisions that they did not have legislative authority to do. There's also a little story going around, as you point out, that Kamala is a gun owner. There's a story that was circulating, and you know, I don't know if it's exactly true, but it sure sounds, like it's not beyond the realm of probability, and that is that she was trying to sell her gun and asked a friend to take it into the gun dealer because she did not want to be seen walking into a gun dealer.
Right.
Now she can deny that all she wants, and you know, it's a story, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. She supported every single anti-gun bill that came down the pike in the state of California. It didn't matter. Even when Governor Jerry Brown, who was considered a moderate, he was like maybe 1/3 pro-gun, 2/3 anti-gun. Even the bills that he vetoed, she opposed. She supported, and wanted them to go into effect. And she happens to be very good friends and colleagues with our illustrious Governor Gavin Newsom. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that there was some coffee shop meetings or wine tasting meetings at one of his wineries where they sat down to decide, okay, who's going to run for Senate and who's going to run for governor, and who's going to endorse who, when, and who's going to support who, when, and a little bit of that behind the door smoke and mirrors or smoke and wine, glasses of wine deals that were taking place, because it all happened way too neatly. And this is part of what we call the San Francisco Bay Area conspiracy. Gavin Newsom coming from the Bay, and Kamala Harris coming from the Bay, and the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, coming from the Bay. They represent a very small part of California, and yet they're impacting America in a very big way. So basically, I can tell you this: if Kamala Harris's lips are moving, she's not telling you the truth.
Absolutely.
She is not telling you where she really stands. She is asking you questions on where you stand so that she can formulate an answer to make it sound like you need to support her because she is the needs to be elected and has all of the credibility and the credentials in order to be our vice president. Nothing can be further from the truth. She is the pure political animal, the purest of political animals that have come from California and have made it to national prominence. And frankly, when all of the stories start to come out in the campaign, I think America is going to see just how radical, left-wing, socialist, liberal, progressive, all, you name it, Kamala Harris is. And it would be probably not a good idea for me to share too many other details on other stories, because I think that it's probably best that they're released during the campaign. And Vice President Mike Pence, when he has the opportunity to debate her, and he will eviscerate her because he is not a good debater.
No, and I had heard that they were doing an interview with the president, and it was the night that they told Joe she was going to be running with him. And he said that he was glad that they chose her because that was his first round pick as far as somebody they could go after and just demolish with fact. So my guess is that you agree that we shouldn't vote for anybody who's anti-gun, nonetheless, especially Kamala Harris. I had a couple questions. I'm trying to keep up, but it's tough as a one-man show. There's a couple people that had some questions for you in California. Okay. First off, do you ever contemplate running for office or Senate or anything?
I ran for state assembly once in 1998, and the good Lord did the best thing he could ever do is that he made sure that I lost. And the guy who defeated me was a sitting supervisor, and I was nothing more than a Second Amendment lobbyist in the state of California who nobody knew. And I came I did a very respectable job, but he went on to be the Assembly Republican leader, became my friend, and he was a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. And it gave me the opportunity to come back to lead gun owners of California and to recruit and find candidates to run for office and to convince people that they need to be involved in this fight. And frankly, Jared, I cannot tell you how fulfilling this job is. It's not always fun. As a matter of fact, fun is not a term that I would use to describe what we do, but it's very fulfilling because I revel in the stories of people who come up to me and say, Sam, if I didn't have a gun, I'd be dead. Sam, if I didn't have a gun, my kids would have been hurt. Sam, over and over and over again. And I know that it's because of the work that we do. And thankfully, because I don't have a podcast, I don't have a voice outside of our membership. People like yourself, Jared, who we partner with, we're not just friends, man. We're brothers in arms fighting this battle together. You have the ability to blast this message like a beacon on top of a mountain to let people know what is going on, what they can do, and how they can get involved and allow us to share that message. And that's how. So the answer, long way around the barn, is no, I don't want to run for office. I prefer to help find candidates.
Thank you. And you're always welcome on here. I don't care if you just want to come on and tell people what you had for lunch. That's fine. So you lost, and I hate to say it, but I'm glad you lost because you belong where you are right now. Now that gentleman who beat you, has he joined Gun Owners California?
He did not join.
Well, we have to make that happen. Air, you tell me who he is, and I'll make sure he joins.
He passed away.
Oh,
but he
sorry to hear
served
that.
the entire term of every year that he could possibly serve. He served in the state legislature, both in the Assembly and the Senate. And in his time there, he was I had an open door to his offices. When things were getting rough in the Capitol, I could go into his office. His staff would let me go in there and rest, do whatever we needed to do to operate in the Capitol. He was wonderful. His name was Dave Cox. He was a county supervisor. He was Assemblyman Cox. He became my assemblyman and my state senator when he ran for Senate. And frankly, more than sending his $35, he gave us $350 million worth of support in the legislature, and that was worth its weight in gold.
Awesome.
So he was a dear guy.
Somebody had asked, is there any progress in fighting the 80% build restrictions in California as of yet?
Um, well, there is. We had a law that passed last year that required anybody who does an 80%er, you have to apply to the state of California in order to get a state issued a serial number to attach to that 80%er once it has reached the stage of a legal firearm. So that is the law in the state of California. There were other bills this year that would have made it illegal to make them, but we were able to kill those bills. Well, actually, thank God, COVID killed those bills, because the
Yeah.
people who were carrying those bills, were declared non-essential. The legislature was declared non-essential, and from February to almost July, they didn't come to the Capitol and pass all of these laws. So there were a whole bunch of laws that they couldn't consider, and they had to narrow it down to just a handful of them. We will get 80%ers back. It might not even be with a lawsuit that's based here in California. It will probably be with another lawsuit that's happening in other parts of the country where 80%ers are declared legal. We go back from before the founding of the country, when Americans were making guns in their own backyards, their own kitchens.
Right.
And it was legal then. It's legal now. Unfortunately, we have hoops we have to jump over. So that's one of those things. We have some things we have to get, like magazines and so-called assault weapons and ammunition. And once we get those, then we get to go after the 80%ers and constitutional carry and stuff like that.
Yep, absolutely. You just mentioned the next one. What's the word on the AWB ban?
Well, here in California, there is an active bill that we are fighting. It's probably going to make it to the governor's desk, and he's probably going to sign it. That's going to get, I don't want you to chuckle on me, Jared. The state of California has coined this type of firearm that isn't a rifle and isn't a handgun. They've coined it and are calling it a piffle.
Oh, boy.
A pipe. And we're talking about the Franklin Arms and many of the other AR platform, basically handguns, but they're not defined as handguns by ATF. They're not defined as handguns under California law. They weren't illegal. Many people were building them and buying them, and it was totally legal. Well, now they're going to consider them as assault weapons in the state of California, and they're going to open up a window for anybody who has one to register it with the state of California as a California assault weapon, and then they will ban the future manufacturing or importation of those types of piffles.
So they're specifically going after the Franklin guys and what they've been doing?
Yeah, that's specifically after that one. And the DOJ is not ignorant enough to make sure that they make it broad enough to capture all of the non-shoulder stocked AR platform firearms that are out there. Amazing. Piffle, remember that.
Piffle, yeah, that's gonna be my new tattoo. A piffle.
You'll make it forever that way.
When cases come up before the court and you guys are fighting the good fight, is there any way that the judges take into consideration, I don't know, the cost of enforcement? Or if there's any ability to actually enforce these laws they just throw out and hope sticks? Is it in the discussion?
Jared, that is a brilliant question that is not asked often enough, but there is a very direct answer. First of all, the courts have a philosophy where they assume that the legislatures, the other branch of government, has taken it upon themselves to deal with the costs and financial aspects of implementing the legislation that they create. And the courts often, most of the times, I can't say for sure 100% of the times, but often will assume that the legislature has thought through how much something is going to cost. Now, that's on the cost side. Mm-hmm. Here in California, we have a case that was filed by the National Shooting Sports Foundation, which challenged the microstamping requirements in the state.
Right.
And for all of your listeners who don't know what microstamping is, it's a technology where the firearm is required to imprint on a fired case the make, model, and serial number in microscopic characters on the primer of the case when it's ejected, so the law enforcement can come after a shooting, pick them up, take them to their electron microscope, read the make, model, and serial number, and they'll find out who the last person who legally owned that gun was. And that is about as useful as tits on a boar with regards to law enforcement, because finding out who the last person was and that they've recorded that gun is stolen, it's a whole lot of work for nothing, a lot of wasted police.
Right.
So the law in California, we have what is called a safe handgun list, roster of safe handguns. You guys in free America, even in Massachusetts, you can buy thousands of different models of firearms that are available to Americans. In California, we are limited only to firearms that have passed a 600 round functioning test, a drop test on concrete at 6 feet at different angles. They have loaded chamber indicators and magazine disconnects, and they have microstamping technology, which is required to imprint on the case in two locations, make, model, and serial number. NSSF filed a lawsuit and said, Your Honors, it is physically impossible for a firearm to imprint these characters on two locations. Right. You can put the imprints inside the chamber. It will not imprint them on when the case is fired. You can put it on the breech face. The only part of a firearm that impacts and could possibly imprint is the firing pin. So we have a law that is impossible to accomplish. Well, the courts in California said, the lower court said, you know what? Just because something is impossible, that doesn't mean that it's illegal or unconstitutional. We think that industry should take this as an opportunity to develop technology to turn impossibility into possibility. And that's language is saying, you guys can stuff it in your shirt and you're never going to get any more new handgun models. We're still on Glock 3, Gen 3 Glocks that we can get. We can't get anything that's new. Nothing.
We're right behind you.
No manufacturer in the world is ever going to use microstamping technology. If they were to use it and make one mistake out of millions of guns that they produce, they can be sued out of existence in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
In a heartbeat. So no manufacturer in the world uses it. No manufacturer is ever going to use it. The technology is inconsistent and doesn't work. We learned some things, Jared. Did you know that when a Glock firing pin hits a case, that it actually bounces and strikes it multiple times, each time with a decreasing amount of pressure? It isn't just a one and done. We learned with high-speed technology that in many semi-automatics that the firing pin actually double and triple strikes. And when it doubled and triple striked with a microstamping, it smeared all of the characters because it hit it 2 or 3 times. That's how we learned that. Why are they smeared? Why are they smeared? Well, we learned that in many semi-automatics, the firing pins actually hit the firing pin multiple times with decreasing force. So, with the courts, the courts say impossibility is okay. So they took it to the Supreme Court of the state of California, and thankfully the Supreme Court said, you know what, lower courts, we're going to require that you actually listen to the information that the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the manufacturers bring you on microstamping technology. You cannot just say, it's impossible. Even though it's impossible, it's okay. It's not illegal or unconstitutional. You're going to have to listen to their arguments. So the case is coming back down to lower courts for hearing, and we're waiting to see what happens there. So yes, awesome. They can declare something impossible and say it's legal even though it's impossible. And usually when cost is taken into account, they don't care. They figure the legislature worked that out.
Well, that's because they have everybody else's money. The Glock Gen 3, we're right behind you. Massachusetts, the last gen we could buy is Glock 3, Gen 3, because of very similar things that you guys have. So thanks for giving us that. But so I want to give you the floor. But before we wrap, I want to, there's people asking, and I always get asked of who should I vote for, what candidate's good for guns, which one's not. And I mean, I'm but one dude. I can't tell everybody, and the way I vote might not be the same as everybody else. But is GOC grading candidates? And if so, how can folks in California find them? I know the answer to it, but sometimes people want to hear it. So have you already done that, and where can they find that?
Yes. Number one, Gun Owners of America does an exhaustive candidate rating sheet for all Senate seats, all congressional seats throughout the country. You can go to the Gun Owners website and go to the Gun Owners Political Victory Fund portion of the website, and you can see all of the ratings to all of the candidates, and you'll know if the person who is your congressman or your senator or senatress or congresswoman, I don't know the gender these days, you have to be real careful, where they are on guns, and it'll be plainly evident to you as to who you must have to vote for. In California, that is the thing that we have been doing the longest, is issuing candidate ratings since 1975. We send questionnaires to all new candidates, but for those that have been elected and are incumbents, we don't rely on their questionnaires because they have a track record, and we use their track records to grade them on how they where they stand on the Second Amendment, and we publish those. We put them on our websites. If you become a member of Gun Owners of California, we send a hard copy to your mailbox before every election, before the primary and before the general. We'll tell you, everybody in the state, who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, bad girls. Well, I gotta be careful when you say that. But who the good candidates are and who the bad ones are, and how to vote. And then up until the last week to actually, once absentee ballot opens in the state of California, we always open up our phones and ask any of our folks who need any help with who to vote for, and we will give them the information on who the pro-gun candidates are. I can't tell you anything beyond that, but the one thing we can tell you is who to vote for on the issue of the Second Amendment. There you go. There's our rating sheet. And if you have any questions, heck, you just call the office here at 916-984-1400, and we will answer your questions. You can go down your ballot. If we know who the good judges are in your area, we'll tell you about them. If we know who the good pro-gun dog catchers are, we'll tell you that too. Oftentimes, a lot of people that are running for office are members and supporters of Gun Owners of California, and if they are, then we know they're the good folks, and we can encourage you to support them because they're the farm club. They're the ones who are going to run for city council and boards of supervisor, state assembly, state senate, and Congress, and maybe one of these days president. So yes, that information is updated constantly as we get new information from candidates. Many candidates are too lazy to send in a questionnaire when they don't have a track record, so we don't leave that alone. You just want to assume, well, they don't care enough. We're just going to give them a did not respond. We pursue them. We say, we want to know where you are so that we can let people know and how to vote on this issue. And if they blow us off, then we put did not respond. But a lot of candidates say, oh, I didn't even know that you guys were doing this and how important was it, and that you're I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment. I want your endorsement. I say, knucklehead, all you have to do is fill out the questionnaire and send it in. And the sooner you get it in, the sooner we can do something about it. So, yes, information is available. All you have to do is pick up the phone and drop a dime. Oh, awesome. Man, Jared, you're probably not even old enough to know what dropping a dime means.
Well, I know, though, there's a couple things. Is dropping a dime is ratting on people. It's also, back in the day when I was young, they had those things called pay phones and stuff like that. But yeah,
that's what I was talking
about. So for those who are in California, I put that link down below. It is on the website. Again, please join if you can. Please join. I've had let me put it back down on the bottom. I've had the banner at the bottom of the screen for 90% of the show, gunownersca.com. They do fantastic work. I'm a member myself. I like to put my mouth where my money is, or my money where the mouth is. And I would not, if it's a group that I don't find worthy of joining, I would never ask you to do that. So just know that if I'm a member, then I find value in it. And when I'm out here dealing with all the lawsuits and the laws, I see the groups that are up there fighting all the time. And I believe that we should help them help us. So Sam, man, the floor is yours. Is there anything you want to add? Anything on the amicus brief? Anything that you want people to know? it's all yours, bud.
Well, folks, first of all, we have never been so close to gaining such huge victories that will serve us well in restoring, preserving, and protecting the Second Amendment than we are now. Now is not the time for us to let up. We are in important times in this election. We are the courts are extremely valuable. We're fighting in legislatures throughout the country. So we need your support. Stay engaged. And you know what? All of the friends of Guns and Gadgets, I'm going to charge you with praying to make sure that Jared stays healthy and is able to continue to be the shining light that he is in sharing this information with you that is hard to find anyplace else. And taking to heeding the education and the words that he shares with you and putting them to action. Remember, you can enjoy your jobs and your vacations and your families and your church and your hobbies and your 1967 Mustang fastbacks with 289 hypo engines and all of that stuff. You can enjoy, which is one of my favorites. I'm sorry. You can enjoy all of those things, but if you dedicate just a little bit of time to staying armed and informed through the best sources you can do more with so little to fight to preserve that freedom than you can imagine. And so, Jared, my brother, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to wax on here, wax off from the wrong movie. About the Second Amendment here in California and how it affects supporters of the Second Amendment nationwide. And you do an amazing job. It's my wife doesn't really like it when I get onto your website and start going from podcast to podcast to podcast to podcast to politics to gadgets to guns to all kinds of cool stuff, because some people binge watch Survivor or The Bachelor. I like to binge watch Guns and Gadgets, and that's a very healthy thing, folks. And you will never come away with a better source for being educated on all things guns than to listen to my brother Jared here and everything that he has to share. So it's an honor and a pleasure. We have dedicated our lives to fighting for the Second Amendment. We will do it until we are put 6 feet under, and have no plans on slowing down or retiring. This is a fight that we have to carry on and then fight to preserve once we have achieved victory. And it's a goosebump sort of a thing, Jared. I know you know that feeling. Yep. But we can get there. We can get there. Don't listen to the one-downsman buddies who will tell you a bad story about what the government is doing to them, and then your next buddy will say, oh yeah, the government is doing that to you. You ought to see what the IRS is doing to me. And then the next guy say, the IRS, you should see what so-and-so. And then you finally get the bad guy, the guy who says, well, you know what, the black helicopter actually landed in my backyard last night, and boy, was I scared. Then we don't have to be that way. We can fight back. We can fight for liberty. We can be armed and informed if you stay engaged. Ask for your support for Gun Owners of America and Gun Owners Foundation, Gun Owners of California. If you don't share Guns and Gadgets with your buddies, your pals at the range, your family members who are even the least bit interested in all things guns, you're a knucklehead. You got to do it. You got to do it.
Thank you, Sam. Humbled, man. Thank you. You're too kind. I just hope I get to do it as long as they let me on the YouTubes. So, it's a passion of mine. So, and I owe it to guys like you who lead the way, and I just want to do right by the people who are fighting for us. So, thank you very much. It's very humbling to know you. It's an honor to call you a friend and a brother. So, keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate it. That's
a commitment to you and to all of you who are listening.
Thank you, man. It's been a long show, and thank you for your time. Do me a favor. Let's get back on here if there's any movement in any of these cases that we need to get to the people.
100% guaranteed. I'll give you a holler.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I don't do a lot of live shows because I don't. Sometimes it's tougher for me to do this and get people here. So thank you all for your time. I appreciate you all more than you know. Until we see each other again, be safe, stay vigilant, carry a weapon. Don't forget, join Gun Owners of California, Gun Owners of America, donate to Gun Owners Foundation. Every dollar earned through all of the super chats tonight is going right to Gun Owners of California to fight these lawsuits. So thank you all. Until we see each other again, have a great night. Take care.